Is it fair to say that there'd be less litter in our cities if blind people were given pointed sticks? Yeah. That's awful. A lady with a clipboard stopped me in the street the other day. She said, "Can you spare a few minutes for cancer research?" And I said, "All right, but we can't get much done." Yeah, my dad's dying wish was to have his family around him. I can't help thinking he would have been better off with a little more oxygen. Yeah, I saw that show, 50 Things to Do Before You Die. I would have thought the obvious one was shout for help or something. Help me, I don't want to die. This dog goes in a hardware store and the dog says, "I'd like a job, please." And the hardware store owner goes, "We don't hire dogs. Why don't you go join the circus?" And then the dog says, "Well, what would the circus want with a plumber?" If you're being chased by a police dog, try not to go through a tunnel, then onto a little seesaw, and then jump through a hoop of fire, because they're trained for that. Here's a short summary of every Jewish holiday. They tried to kill us. We won. Let's eat. What did the waiter ask the group of dining Jewish mothers?
I don't know.
Is anything all right?
That's
Where does a Jewish husband hide money from his wife? Under the vacuum cleaner. I was playing chess with my friend and he said, "Let's make this interesting." Yeah. So we stopped playing chess. I was really naive sexually. My first boyfriend asked me to do missionary, and I flew off to Africa for 6 months. Oh, well. My granddad, he's got a chair in his shower that makes him feel really old. So in order to feel young, he sits on it backwards like a cool teacher giving an assembly about drugs. Do you have one of those chairs? All right, my husband's penis is like a semicolon. I can't remember what it's for, and I never use it anyway.
Oh, my God.
You can't lose a homing pigeon. If your homing pigeon doesn't come back, then what you lost is just a freaking pigeon.
By the way, that's a quote from Mike Tyson, of all people. He came up with that.
You know, my dad said, "Always leave him wanting more." And, you know, ironically, that's how he lost his job in disaster relief. I always thought Trojan was a really bad name for condom brand because, of course, the Trojans were people whose lives were ruined when a vessel containing little warriors unexpectedly exploded inside their city walls. The anti-aging advertisement that I'd like to see is a baby covered in cream saying, "Ah, I used too much. I'm so young." Whenever I see a man with a beard, mustache, and glasses, I think, there's a man who has taken every precaution to avoid people doodling on photographs of him. I said to Mom, "What's a couple?" And she said 2 or 3. That probably explains why her marriage collapsed. Yeah, I'm writing a film script about going back in time to stop Hitler's parents meeting at the Austrian enchantment under the sea dance. It's called Back to the Fuhrer. Uh-oh, am I crashing? No.
No, you're all right.
My screen went dark there for a minute. Lord. I went to the library, and I asked the librarian for a book about turtles, and she said hardback, and I was like, yeah, little heads, you know? Hedgehogs. Why can't they just share that hedge? I don't get it. I think the worst thing about driving a time machine would be your kids always in the back going, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" I have some differences between men and women for y'all. Names for first. If Linda, Kate, Paula, and Janice go to lunch, they call each other Linda, Kate, Paula, and Janice. But If Fred, Luke, Bradley, and Jeff go out to lunch, they affectionately call each other Bruno, Scrappy, Peanut Head, and Godzilla. Eating out. When the bill arrives, Fred, Luke, Bradley, and Jeff each throw $20 on the table, even though the total's 34 to 25. None of them have any smaller bills. None will admit they want the change back. But when Linda, Kate, Paula, and Janice get their bill, out come the pocket calculator. Money. A man will pay $10 for a $5 item he needs. A woman will pay $5 for a $10 item she doesn't need because it's on sale. Bathrooms. A man has 5 items in the bathroom: a toothbrush, razor, shaving cream, bar soap, and a towel from the Motel 6. The number of items in a woman's bathroom is 284. The average man would not even be able to identify most of those. Arguments. Women always have the last word in an argument. Anything a man adds after that is the beginning of a brand new argument. Cats. Women love cats. Men may say they love cats, but when women aren't looking, men kick cats. Not you, cat boy, but you know.
Yeah. Don't kick the cat boy. I kick babies.
The future. A woman worries about the future until she gets a husband. A man never worries about the future until he gets a wife. Success. A successful man is one who makes more money than can be spent by his wife. A successful woman is the one who can find that man. I'll save the rest of these differences for another time, but I do have 2 boll weevils grew up in South Carolina. One went to Hollywood and became a famous actor, and the other stayed behind in the cotton fields and never amounted to much. The second one naturally became known as the lesser of 2 weevils. The Friars got behind on their belfry payment, so they opened up a small florist shop to raise funds. And since everybody liked to buy flowers from the men of God, a rival florist across town thought this was unfair. He asked the good fathers to close down, but they wouldn't. He went back, he begged them to close. They ignored him. So the rival florist hired Hugh McTaggart, the roughest, most vicious thug in town, to persuade them to close. Hugh beat up the Friars. He trashed the store, saying he'd be back if they didn't close up shop. Terrified, they did so, thereby proving that Hugh and only Hugh can prevent florist friars. I love puns. So this fellow gets up one morning. He decides he no longer is going to shave. He was going to the barber for his morning shave. And the town barber also happened to be the local pastor in town. So when the guy walked into the barber shop, the barber pastor wasn't there. He was on a pastoral call, but his wife Grace was in the shop. And the man says to Grace, "I want a shave." And Grace told him to climb up in the chair, and she gave him a shave. When Grace was finished, she asked her how much for the shave, and Grace said $20. "Wow, $20? That seems a little steep," the guy said. Grace says, "That's my charge." So the guy gave her a $20 bill and went on his way. Well, the next morning when he got up, he went to the mirror and he looked at his face, and it was as smooth as when he'd shaved the day before. He checked the next day, same thing. A week goes by, 2 weeks. His face stayed as smooth as a baby's butt. Finally, after the 3rd week, he stopped back in the barbershop, and Grace happened to be there. And he says, "Grace, I can't believe I still don't need another shave. You did some kind of magnificent job." And Grace said, "Well, you have been shaved by Grace, and once shaved, always shaved." She had a speech impediment. Okay. One day, 2 carrots were walking down the street. They were the best of friends. Just as they started to step off the curb, a car came speeding around the corner and ran one of them over. The unhurt carrot called an ambulance and helped his friend as best he could. He was taken to emergency at the hospital and rushed away. After many hours of agonized waiting, the doctor came out. He walked over to the distraught carrot and he says, "I've got good news and bad. The good news is your friend is going to pull through. And the bad news is he's going to be a vegetable for the rest of his life." Little carrot. A couple of clams were eating chocolate bars while 2 fish were watching. "Did you see that?" one fish says as the clams finished their treat. "They didn't even offer us a single bite." "What do you expect?" asked the other fish. "They're 2 shellfish."
That's great.
A sailor was caught AWOL as he tried to sneak on board his ship about 3 a.m. Well, the chief petty officer spied him and ordered the sailor to stop. The officer ordered the sailor, "Take this broom, sweep every link on this anchor chain by morning, or it's the brig for you." So the sailor picked up the broom and started to sweep the chain, but just then a tern landed on the broom handle, and the sailor yelled at the bird to leave, but it wouldn't. He picked the tern off the broom handle, giving the bird a toss. The bird left only to return and light once again on the broom. The sailor went through the same routine over and over with the tern coming back and back, and he couldn't get any cleaning done because he could only sweep the chain once or twice before that stupid bird kept coming back. Well, when morning came, so did the chief petty officer to check on the wayward sailor. "What on earth have you been doing all night? This chain's no cleaner than when you started. What have you to say for yourself, sailor?" barked the chief. "Well, honest, chief," was the reply, "I tossed a turn all night and couldn't sweep a link." I was driving down this lonely northern road one cold winter day when it began to snow pretty heavily. My windows were getting icy. My wiper blades were so worn out, they quickly fell apart under the strain. Unable to drive any further because the ice was building up on the front window, I suddenly had this great idea. I stopped and I started to overturn big rocks till I found two very lethargic hibernating rattlesnakes. I grabbed them, straightened them out flat, installed them on my blades, and they worked just fine. Of course, that's because they were windshield vipers. Oh, how stupid. All right, my last one. I won't torch you anymore, can't we? This ancient Babylonian general was once involved in a plot to overthrow the king. His plot included a number of followers in the upper ranks of the army. However, his plot was uncovered, and the king threw him in jail. Well, the king sentenced him to death without trial. However, from the jail, he was able to secretly contact his followers to arrange to escape, meet the followers, and attack the king's palace at night. So, the night before his scheduled execution, the general managed to escape from prison. He fled to a ziggurat several kilometers away where his followers would meet him. However, the ziggurat of several in the area, and he wasn't sure if his cohorts would find him find the right ziggurat. Well, by this time it's twilight, so he lit a small fire and smoke signals to indicate which structure he was hiding. However, the king's loyal soldiers saw the smoke coming from the ziggurat. They came to arrest him before he could meet his followers, and he was executed the next day. And you know the moral? Warning. The searching general has determined that smoking ziggurats can be extremely hazardous to your health.
Give it up for WyNott, everyone.
Yeah.
I hear some applause.
Yay!
I heard some.
Yeah.
Yay.
Why?